Hello everyone. Let's review shloka number 68 in Lalita Sahasranamam. Śruti sīmanta sindhūrī kṛta pādābjadhūḻikā sakalāgama sandoha śuktisampuṭa mauktikā. Before we take a look at the meaning of the namas in the shloka, just a brief recap. We've been looking at Devi's omnipresence, that is her ability to be anywhere and everywhere. We also looked at how Lalita is that Parabrahman, the ultimate reality. She is the pure consciousness and she is everything that's manifested in this universe. And we are still in the omnipresence, and these two namas also point to Lalita being that ultimate reality. So let's take a look at the namas. The first nama is Śruti sīmanta sindhūrī kṛta pādābjadhūḻikā. So Śruti means Vedas. So it is said that there are two types, right? Śruti and Smriti. Śruti means what's heard. Smriti means what's remembered. So the Vedas fall in the category of Śruti. Even the Upanishads and everything, they fall under the category of Śruti because these were revealed to the sages during their meditation. So the Vedas do not have human authorship. They were revealed to the rishis. So because they were revealed and heard, they are called as Śruti. So Śruti here means Vedas, and we always see the Vedas as feminine. So that's why we say Veda Mata. So Śruti here references Veda Mata. Sīmanta. Sīmanta means the parting of the hair above the eyebrows. So for women it is common. We part the hair, right? Straight part, side part, all of those are possible. In Tamil they are called as vagadu. So Sīmantam means the parting of the hair. Sindhūrī. Sindhuram means kunkumam, vermilion in English. So Vedamata has sindhuram in the parting of her hair. So Śruti sīmanta sindhūrī means Vedamata has kunkumam in the parting of her hair. And the sīmanta sindhūrī, as we all know, who puts kunkumam in the parting of their hair? Usually married women put kunkumam in the parting of their hair. And what does that imply? A woman who has kunkumam in the parting of her hair is usually someone who is respectable because they put it at the time of marriage, right? That's the first time a girl can put kunkumam in the parting of her hair. What does that mark? That marks that now she is married and she is no longer that carefree girl, young girl. Now she is someone who has certain responsibilities, and it is said that the daughter-in-laws of the house uphold the pride and respect of that family. So any woman who has kunkumam in the parting of her hair tells us that she is a respectable daughter-in-law of a family. So that Sīmanta Sindhuram means that this is a mark of respect. So someone gains respect by putting that Sindhuram. And it's also said that Mahalakshmi resides in 5 places. Mahalakshmi resides in a lotus. Mahalakshmi resides in the backside of a cow. Mahalakshmi also resides in the forehead of an elephant. And Mahalakshmi resides in the back of the Vilva leaf. And Mahalakshmi also resides in the Sindhuram in the parting of a Sumangali's hair. So in that it is also auspicious. So it is respectable, auspicious. So Vedamata, by having the parting, by having kunkumam in the parting of her hair, is now denoted as a respectable woman. Okay, Vedamata as a respectable woman. So how did that Sindhuram come? Kṛta means becomes. So how did that Sindhuram come? Pādābjadhūḻikā. Pādam means feet, abjam means lotus. Always when we refer to the God's feet, we call it as lotus feet. Lotus has a very important position in our culture, and we've seen this many times. Lotus is standing in the muddy water all day, but if you see, the lotus will not have even one drop of water or mud on it. It always stays pure. Like that, the goddess's feet is always pure. So many of us hold her feet, but yet she is pure and stays above it. And also, lotus is a symbolism of expansion of our consciousness. And so that is also something when we pray at the goddess's feet, then our consciousness can expand, and therefore we can become more aware and attain that liberation. So that's why goddess's feet or God's feet is also always referred to as lotus feet. So pādābjam means lotus feet. Dhūlikā, dhūli means dust. So the vermilion or the kumkumam in the Vedamata's parting of the hair is the dust from Lalitambika's feet. So Lalita is red, so the dust from Lalita's feet is also red. So the Vedamata's hair got the dust from her. So the scene you have to imagine is Vedamata was prostrating to Lalita. So like women do Panchanga Namaskaram, she did that. And when she fell at Lalita's feet, then the dust from her feet got onto Vedamata's hair. And we all know, even in the few slokas back we saw, Nijagnya Rupa Nigama. So the Vedas are nothing but Lalita's command. So the Veda is subservient to Lalita's will. So that's why the Vedamata was falling at Lalita's feet. And when she was falling at Lalita's feet, the dust from her feet got onto Vedamata's parting of the hair. So what does that mean? The dust from Lalita's feet got onto Vedamata's parting hair. We already said a woman who has sindhūram in her parting of the hair is a respectable woman. So what this line is trying to indicate is the Vedas are revered only because they got the dust from Lalita's feet. So just the dust from Lalita's feet gave the respect for the Vedas, and we all celebrate that. That is one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is, if you the Vedas, what do? The Vedas describe the way to get to Sat Chit Anandam. So Sat means truth, right? And Chit means consciousness. Anandam means pure bliss. So the Vedas, which is the ocean of knowledge, for us, Vedas is the only authoritative source we have, and we always consider Vedas as extensive, expansive, right? So someone who knows all the four Vedas, we accept them as a learned authority. And what do these four Vedas try to get us to? They get us to Sat Chit Anandam. So Sat means truth. What is truth? Truth means understanding the reality as it is. So for us all human beings, whatever we call reality is not truth. That reality is clouded by our perception. So whatever reality we have is called a subjective reality. So it is based on the perception. Each of us are wearing a lens in our eyes, and that lens is colored based on our background, the vasanas we have acquired over so many births, whatever our experience is in this particular birth. All of those influences how we see the world. That's why each one of us have our own worldview. That's called a subjective reality. And why all of this is happening? It is because of the effect of Maya. So this Maya clouds it, and the Maya hides the fact that all the manifested forms are nothing but the ultimate reality. So once the ultimate reality manifests into the form, because of the effect of Maya, the manifested forms forget that they are nothing but ultimate reality. And that's where we develop our own ahankara, which drives the way we think, we act, etc. So the truth is that piercing of the veil of Maya is when we can recognize the truth. That is what we call as liberation. Only when someone recognizes and gets free from the effect of Maya, they can cross the cycle of samsara. So the Veda's purpose is to get us to that truth. And if we get us to that truth, then we can get to Chit, which is the consciousness. And the universal consciousness is called as Brahman, and the individual consciousness is called as Jivatma. So that's why there is Paramatma and Jivatma. And when we recognize that oneness, that the individual consciousness, the Atman, is nothing but that Brahman, that's when the liberation actually happens. So once someone pierces the veil of Maya, they are able to then understand the consciousness within them is same as the universal consciousness, which is Brahman. Then what do they achieve? Anandam, which is pure bliss. So the Veda's job is to get us to that Sat Chit Anandam. And what is the underlying principle behind it? Is the oneness with that Brahman is what we have to recognize. So all the Vedas are trying to describe that Brahman. That's what their goal is. All that Vedas, while it's trying to describe that Brahman, is not even able to get, so all that Vedas is only a speck of dust in Lalita's feet. That means Lalita, as that ultimate reality, is infinite. It is impossible for anything, even something as good as Vedas, to describe that Brahman. So the entire Vedas, which we all celebrate as ocean of knowledge, which for a normal human being is impossible to understand and master, it is only a speck of dust when compared to Lalita. So the Brahman is indescribable. The Brahman cannot be something that can be explained using words, or it can be something that can be understood using our mind, or something that can be perceived using our senses. That's why we say Mano Vacha Ma Gochara. Mano means mind, Vacha means words, Ma Gochara. Gochara means in range. So Lalita, as that ultimate reality, is not even in the range of our mind and words. So the best authoritative source that we have that describes the Brahman is the Vedas, but even that is only a speck of dust when you compare to the infinite Brahman. So śuktisampuṭa sindhūrī kṛta pādābjadhūḻikā references that. And in the second verse of Saundarya Lahari, Adi Shankaracharya says, just with the speck of dust from Lalita's feet, Brahma is able to create the entire universe, Vishnu is able to sustain the universe, and Rudra is putting it on him as vibhuti, and he has it all over his body. So the God's feet is always something that is great. This is why we call as charanagati. Charanagati means complete surrender. So when we completely surrender ourselves at the lotus feet of Devi, then she leads us to liberation. Nakadititi sanchanna namajjana tamoguna. Just the radiance from her toenails is sufficient to remove our ignorance. Removal of ignorance is nothing but piercing of the veil of Maya. So the feet of the Devi is great. And what Adi Shankaracharya is saying, we don't even need the feet of Devi. Just a speck of dust from Devi's feet is sufficient to do great things like creating the universe, sustaining the universe, and dissolution. So the Trinity, the Trimurtis are able to do their jobs with nothing but just a speck of dust from her feet. So if the Devi's feet are great, the speck of dust from Devi's feet is sufficient for us to get impossible things done, or such humongous things like creation of universe done. So for us mere mortals, we don't even need a speck of dust, but maybe we just need a minuscule portion of that speck of dust will be sufficient. We'll all be blessed. So if speck of dust from Devi's feet is so great, then imagine the sandals or pādukas at the God's feet that gets to be associated with the speck of dust from Lord's feet all the time. So the sandals are holding the God's feet. So how blessed must those sandals be, and how great must those sandals be, and how sublime it is, right? And let's take a look at a small story related to the pādukā of the God. So once in Vaikuntham, Vishnu and Mahalakshmi were relaxing. The scene that you can all imagine, which I think lots of us are very familiar. There is Vishnu reclining on Adisesha. There is Mahalakshmi sitting at the near his feet. Typically, she's massaging his feet. So, and then they are in the ocean of milk, the pādābjadhūḻikā. So that is the scene around them, and Adisesha is in the middle of that ocean of milk. And this particular day, typically you can, when you imagine them, they both are smiling, they're sitting there. On this particular day, Mahalakshmi is a little bit bored. Every day dawns like this, and she's sitting at the feet of Vishnu, massaging his leg, etc. So today she wants a change. Normal, right? All of us every day wake up, cook, eat, go to work, come back, eat, sleep. When we do all of this, all of us, at least over a weekend, want a change. Very similar. Mahalakshmi wants a change. So she wants to go for a walk and just get a slight change in scenery. So she wants to go for a walk. And so she tells Vishnu, I'm going to go for a walk. I just need a change. And wherever Mahalakshmi goes, Vishnu also goes. They are inseparable. So Vishnu said, oh, don't go alone. I'll come with you. I also want to go for a walk. So obviously, they live in the milk ocean, pādābjadhūḻikā, so there must be many beaches around there. So they decided we can just go somewhere close by. They have all this beautiful scenery right in their Vishnu Loka. So they decided to go. And we all know Vishnu always has Changa, Chakram, he has a Gada, he has a bow, Saranga, he's having all of this. So he's always fully dressed up with all of this. So Mahalakshmi said, we're just going close by. Why do we need all of this? Why don't you leave that and come relaxed? So Vishnu thought, yeah, that's a good idea. So he took the Changa, he took the Sanga, Chakram, the bow, the Gada, everything. He placed it on Adisesha. He was also wearing sandals. And he thought, I don't need it. So he took the sandals also and placed it on Adisesha. And Mahalakshmi and Vishnu went for the walk. So in the meantime, while they were gone for the walk, the Shanga, Chakram, the bow and the Gada and Pādukā were all sitting on Adisesha. And Shanga and Chakram were talking. And they were a bit disappointed. They said, Shanga said, I've done so many great things, and we all know the fame of Shanga, right? And it is something very revered. And we all also know the courage of the Sudarshana Chakra. It has associations with Shiva. It is said that it came from the feet of Shiva, and the bravery of Sudarshana Chakra, the times it saved things, it saved Uttara's baby. So Sudarshana Chakra, the courage and its valor and its fame is no less. So Shanga Chakra are all very accomplished. Similarly, the Gada and the bow have come handy for many things. So these are all very accomplished. And so the Shanga and Chakra said, look at our fame, our glory, what all stories that we have. We and this Pādukā, the sandals that's always at the Lord's feet, are having to share the same place. So it's sitting equal to us on this Adisesha. What a sad day it is that this Pādukā that has no story, no reverence, no glory behind it, all it does is just lie in the feet of God all the time, and then now it is sitting equal to us. What a sad day it is. The Pādukā heard all of this, and it's no different from how we all approach life in current days, right? Even in current days, success in life is always about accomplishments. If we have done something, we've gotten a great title, we have gotten more money, or it's always about what we possess and what we have done. It is a little bit less these days about who we are. And that's why we are all not human beings these days. We are human doings. The just be is not something that is considered as success in the society. So everybody is always trying to do something. So we've become human doings. And therefore, all the stress and all of the things that we face in life these days. These Changa and Chakra were very similar that way. So they were thinking about their accomplishments as the greatest thing, and something like a Paduka that was just at the feet of Lord was not seen as something that was accomplished or successful. So the Paduka heard it and felt very bad. On one hand, the Paduka was able to acknowledge it. Yeah, that's they're saying, I haven't done anything great. I just always stay in Lord's feet. And its job is to protect Lord's feet, right? So Vishnu protects the whole universe, and the Paduka protects Vishnu's feet. That's all it knows, and every single day that's what it's doing. So the Paduka felt very bad. But also, when someone is speaking like this about us, it's not easy to just dismiss it and not feel offended by it. So the Paduka was offended by it. So the Paduka felt very sad and started to cry. After a while, Vishnu and Mahalakshmi returned from their walk, and Vishnu took the Changa Chakram in his arms, and then the Gada and Sharanga, so the four arms were, and he was going to slip into the sandals, and he noticed that the sandals was a bit wet. And so he looked down and he said, what happened? Why are you wet? And then he realized it was crying. And so he asked the Paduka, why are you crying? What happened? You seem to be fine when I just went for a walk. The Paduka also has nobody else to go share anything. Where else will it go other than the Lord's feet? So the Paduka also was feeling sad, offended, so went ahead and shared what had happened, said the Shangu and Chakra said, I'm not accomplished and therefore not qualified to be on the same Adisesha bed with them, and that I have no glory of my own. So Vishnu listened to this and he said, don't worry Paduka, I'll take care of it. So that thing finished there, and then many yugams passed, and then Vishnu took the avatar as Rama, and we all know how Rama is an amazing king. He's Purushottama, and Rama had three brothers, right? So there is Lakshmana, who's said to be an avatar of Adisesha, and the Shanga and Chakram became Bharata and Shatrughna. So then Rama, we know the story, because Dashratha had given a boon to Kaikeyi, Rama had to go to the forest for 14 years, and Kaikeyi had wanted for Bharata to be the king, but Bharata was not in this plan at all. He did not know anything about what Kaikeyi had requested for, and he was never the kind of person who wanted to take the throne away from his brother. He was a devoted brother, and he always wanted for Rama to be the king. So the Dashratha then, out of a heartache of missing Rama, passed away, and it was Bharata's turn to become the king because Rama had gone off to the forest. So Bharata went to the forest and asked for Rama to come back. Rama did not want to come back because he wanted to uphold the word that he had given to his father, and so he told Bharata to rule. But Bharata said he would never do that and he would wait for Rama's return. And in the meantime, he said, your Paduka, give me your sandals, give me your Paduka. And that was going to be the proxy king for Rama. So Bharata asked for the sandals from Rama, and he took the sandals of Rama and placed it on his head and went all the way to Ayodhya, and he placed it on the throne of Ayodhya. So as I told you all, Bharata and Shatrughna were the Shanga and Chakra. That Shanga and Chakra was what said the Paduka had no glory, the Paduka had no accomplishments. And now in the Rama Avatara, Vishnu made sure that, number one, the Paduka's significance was, it was a representative of Rama. So the Paduka and the Lord's feet, it is not different. So that is one thing. Somebody is a delegate of a person, that means they are a big shot too, otherwise they can't be a delegate, right? So it was a representative of Rama. It was ruling Ayodhya in place of Rama, and it could sit on the throne. So in Rama Avatara, Vishnu made sure the glory of Paduka is well understood by everybody, and the Paduka also represents that it was just doing its job every single time. And sometimes when we just do what we are supposed to do, that is no less than accomplishing great things. So there is also a message there for all of us. But Vishnu took care of the Paduka's glory, made sure everybody understood it in the Rama Avatara. And in a way, the Shanga and Chakram kind of did the prayachittam for what they spoke about in Vaikuntham in the Rama Avatara. So such is the glory of the Paduka, and there is a Paduka Sahasram which was written by Sri Vedanta Desikar. This explains the glory of the Paduka, and there are 1008 verses that are arranged into 32 chapters. Each chapter is called as Paddhati. Paddhati means one step after the other. So it's called as Adi in Tamil. So Paddhati, there are 32 chapters. And it's said that the number 32 is a significant number. And the significance of that number is that there are 32 Brahma Vidyas. The Brahma Vidyas are meditation techniques, if you will. And when someone masters the 32 Brahma Vidyas, then they get the Brahma Jnanam, which means that they realize the Sat Chit Anandam and the wheel of Maya is pierced. And so it is the steps to achieving that Brahman knowledge. And with Paduka Sahasram, when somebody recites all those 32 chapters, then Lord takes 32 steps, one feet of after the other, and comes to us. So we don't have to go there, he comes to us. And such is the significance of Paduka Sahasram. And anyone who recites it will get anything that they wish for happen, and they get lots of siddhis, etc. So it's one of a very important slokams in the Vaishnavite tradition. And there is interesting story about how this came to be and how Sri Vedanta Desikar wrote this particular Paduka Sahasram. So let's take a quick look at Vedanta Desikar and his story. So there was a Vaishnavite couple called Anantasuri and Totaramba. These were a very religious couple, and they were leading a very happy life. The only thing in their life was that they didn't have a child. So it was their desire to have a son. So every day they'll pray to Vishnu and ask for a child. That's the only thing they were lacking in their life. And one time they had a dream. One night they had a dream, and Vishnu came in the dream and said, please come to Tirupati. So Anantasuri and Totaramba went to Tirupati. And they went there and they had an excellent darshan of Venkatachalapati, and it was so fulfilling for them. And they were still staying in Tirupati and they were sleeping in the night. And Totaramba had a dream that night while she was in Tirupati. And in her dream, Venkatachalapati came and he handed over a bell to her. So this is the bell that we use when we do Nevedyam and all. We ring the bell, right? Genta, money. That's what he gave to her. And to her own surprise, Totaramba took the bell from Venkatachalapati and she swallowed the bell. And as soon as she swallowed the bell, she saw that Tirupati Venkatachalapati smiled, blessed her, and disappeared. And then next morning she woke up and she had this very different feeling. She was jubilant, if you will. It's called paravasam in Tamil. So she was jubilant and she wanted to share this dream with her husband. So she ran to her husband and she said, I had a dream. I want to tell you about it. And Anantasuri also said, yeah, I also had a dream, but first you tell your dream, after that I will tell you. And then she described the dream, and to their complete surprise, it was the exact same dream that her husband also had. So in his dream, Venkatachalapati gave a bell to Totaramba that she swallowed. So both of them were very surprised by how they both had the same dream that night. In the meantime, the Tirupati Venkatachalapati temple was open. And as usual, the priests are all getting ready for all the pujas and everything is set ready. But the priest can't find the temple bell that was inside the shrine. Search for it everywhere, that alone is missing. So the priest went to the head priest and said, I don't know, I've searched everywhere, I can't find the temple bell. So then the head priest had a vision, and in that Venkatachalapati said, don't search for the bell, I have given it to a favorite couple, so hereafterwards you only ring the bell that's outside the shrine. It is said that even today there is no bell inside the shrine, and when it is time for Nevedyam, they ring the bell outside. So that bell from the Tirupati temple that was given by Lord Venkatachalapati was born as Venkatanathan for Anantasuri and Totaramba. And Venkatanathan was a very intelligent kid, and as he grew up, he became a master of all the Vedas, Shastras, all the philosophy, everything he mastered. And in the right time, his parents got him married to a girl, and his wife was also a very suitable companion for him. And Venkatanathan and his wife did not have lots of desires, and they lived their life by asking for unjavritti every day. Unjavritti means that person will go and ask for alms to everyone, and they'll all give a handful of rice or whatever it is that they can, and that's what they'll cook and eat. So he also used to teach some of the kids out there, so that's why he's also considered as a guru. And they used to live in Kanchipuram. And while this was all happening, this is all post Ramanuja period. At that time in Srirangam, there is a group of people who are questioning Ramanuja's philosophy. So Ramanuja's philosophy is is also Advaitam, but it's called as Visishta Advaitam. So it's qualified non-dualism. In Adi Shankara's Advaitam, the creator and the creation are one and the same. It is the creator that manifests as all the different creation. That's what Adi Shankara says. Whereas in Visishta Advaitam, they believe that the creator and the creation are similar. They're not the same, but they're similar. So that is Ramanuja's philosophy, and lots of people were questioning it. And at that time, it was Venkatanathan who went to Srirangam, who explained all the philosophy. He did all the Darkam debate for a while, and then he was able to convince everybody and restore harmony in Srirangam. That's why he is called as Vedanta Desikar. Desikar means guru. So he is Vedanta Desikar. And at that time, Vedanta Desikar was living in a place called Thiru Ahindrapuram. And in Thiru Ahindrapuram, he used to do pravachanam, because now everybody knows that he is good at Advaita philosophy, Vedanta philosophy, etc. He used to do pravachanam, etc. So lots of people had very high regard for Vedanta Desikar. And obviously, whenever other people have high regard, it always attracts jealousy from other people. So there was a poet there who was a bit jealous, and there were several people who were very jealous. This particular poet, I don't know whether we can call it jealousy or curiosity, but wanted to ascertain for himself whether this Vedanta Desikar is actually, it's not a hype, and he's qualified to be revered the way he's revered by everybody. So that was his intent. So he challenged Vedanta Desikar to a competition, and the competition was going to be that there will be a set time, okay, so a few hours, and whoever writes the maximum number of shlokas within that set time will be the winner of the competition. And there was no topic given, they can choose their own topic. So that was the goal. Whoever writes most, then they will accept that this guy is a better poet or a good poet. So that was the competition. So they chose the time for the competition as 2 o'clock in the morning. It's called as Sitram Sirukalai, so earlier than the Brahma Muhurtam. So 2 o'clock in the morning, and the competition time limit was 1 jamam. Roughly it equals 3 hours. So they said from 2 to 5, you can pick any topic of your choice and write how many ever. Whoever writes the most, that's the winner. So now all the people in that Thiru Ahindrapuram are now gearing up to be the judges. Everybody is assembled. On one side, the poet who challenged is there, and on the other side, it is Vedanta Desikar. And in those days, they didn't have paper and pen, so it was all the olisivadi, the palm leaves, and that's where they are writing. And time is now the competition has started, and both the poets are writing all their verses. And you can all imagine, it's like they're just going on and on and on, and it is intense, it's going on. Obviously the people around are judging, they're waiting for it, and as time passes by, it's 5 o'clock now, and the competition is declared done. So first the poet who challenged comes up, and people ask him, what was your topic, how many did you write? And so that poet said, oh, my topic was the feet of the Lord, and I wrote 300 shlokas, which is amazing, right? In 3 hours 300 shlokas is a great thing. So everybody is stunned. It's like, oh, he wrote 300 shlokas. And then they all turn around and they ask Vedanta Deshikar, what was the topic of your choice and what did you write? And he said, even I wanted to write about the Lord's feet, but I didn't feel qualified to write about Lord's feet. And therefore, I wrote about the sandals on the Lord's feet, and that is called pādābjadhūḻikā. And I wrote 1008 verses. The entire crowd was completely stunned. In a matter of 3 hours, he was able to write 1008 verses. And this can happen only if you have the blessings of that Lord Venkatachalapati, Mahavishnu only. And it is also considered that even if you have the blessings, it's not sufficient. It must have been Vishnu himself who wrote that Paduka Sahasram. So this is the story behind the Paduka Sahasram. So the Lord's feet is great, and the dust from her feet can do great things like creation of universe, and the sandals that is always associated with the Lord's feet is also divine, is equally divine. And so it can be the representative of the Lord, as we saw in the Ramayana, and it has so much glory around it. And there is the Paduka Sahasram that explains all of that. So the chapters are all very beautiful. It's also supposed to be amazing poetry, which also communicates important messages, and it has the prabhavam of the Padukam. And actually Vedanta Desikar was called as Kavitarkika Simham after writing that. So Kavi means poetry, Tarkikam means philosophy. Tarkam is debate, Tarkikam is philosophy. So he is the Simham means lion. He is the lion of poetry and philosophy. So that's the story around. And this tells us that the dust from Lalita's feet is sufficient for all of us, and for normal human beings like us. We don't even need the dust particles, a minuscule of that. So as we do Kunkuma Archana, as we do all of those, that's why those Kunkumam and all, if you've submitted at her feet and you keep it on you, that is supposed to be very good. So let's look at the next nama in the shloka. Sakalāgama sandoha śuktisampuṭa mauktikā. Sakala means all. Agamam means shastras. So Nigamam means Vedas, Agamam means Shastras. So there are Shastras for how to build a temple. There are Shastras for how the statue in the temple has to be. Even yoga is a Shastra. So the Agamam all explain how to do something, how to live your life, the rituals that you have to do. So it is all procedures, if you will. So Sakala Agama, and if you look at in Sanskrit, Agama means to come. And this is all the learnings that have been passed for many generations. So that is also Agama. It's come from generations together. So Sakala Agama means all the Agamas. Sandoha, totality. So the totality of all the Agamas is like śuktisampuṭa mauktikā. Śukti means the oyster shell. Samputa means that is enclosing. Mauktikā means pearl. So the aggregate of all the scriptures is like the oyster shell that encloses a pearl. So there are two ways to look at it from this one. One, you can say that all the scriptures, what are they trying to describe? They are trying to describe that pearl called Lalita. The pearl of wisdom in all of these scriptures is nothing but Lalita, who is the Brahman, the ultimate reality. That is one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is all the scriptures put together are like the oyster shell that encloses the pearl. It is the pearl that we want, and it is the pearl that these scriptures are all trying to describe. But what does that amount to? It is like the oyster shell around the pearl. Because this Brahman is indescribable, even all the scriptures put together are only scratching the surface of that ultimate reality, of being able to describe that ultimate reality. So between these two lines, what we are seeing is the dust from her feet is giving the respectability to Vedas. We are all celebrating the Vedas only because it is a speck of dust in her feet. A speck of dust in her feet is so respectable, so revered, and it is a vast ocean of knowledge. And all the books that we have put together, while their attempt is to describe Brahman, because this Brahman is indescribable, it is beyond words and mind, it is not even in the range of human beings. Everything that we have is only a speck of dust or scratching the surface. It is impossible to describe that Brahman fully. So, only when we recognize the Brahman and that the individual consciousness and universal consciousness is one and the same, we can achieve that liberation. At that time, this is called as Tirodhanam, the lifting or revealing of the Maya. And that's when somebody's complete debt of punya, papa, everything is erased, and that person no longer has cycle of birth and death. If that is how we have to do, and this Brahman is so indescribable and it is not even in the human range, how can someone then achieve that, right? So that begs a question. And this is why, if you look at it in our Margam, so they describe three paths, right? So there is Jnana Margam, Bhakti Margam, and Karma Margam. There are three Margams. So the Brahman is indescribable, is not even in the range of our mind and words, and it is not obvious to our senses. So if it is not obvious to our senses, then how will we know? And that's where we see Tattvamasi, the Brahman is you. So that is the Upadesha Vakya. While this is not even in our perception, the way we can understand it is by experiencing it. And in order for us to experience it, what is the path that is the most useful? The Bhakti Marga is the most useful. So when someone follows Bhakti Marga, they become able to experience that Brahman, and at some point they can get to the Anubhava Vakya called Aham Brahmasmi. So that is the recognition that I and the Brahman are one and the same. So Upadesham anybody can give, but because the Brahman is not within our range, it is very hard for us to understand, and that's where experience is the way. And if you have to experience it, Bhakti is the easiest path. Karma Marga can also work, but it's a slippery slope. We could get caught into the ownership of our actions, right? The doership, and think, oh, that's my action, that is my merit, the result of that action should be mine. So it's a slippery slope. But Bhakti Margam is the easiest way to recognize that oneness. A small story around that. Once Krishna was in his palace, and that particular day Krishna had a headache. And you can all imagine, Krishna is, everything revolves around Krishna in that palace, right? He is their king, and Rukmani, Satyabhama, everybody is running around. Krishna has a headache, what to do? So they immediately called the doctor, the official doctor for the palace. He came, and he looked at, he made all the kashayam, he made all the medicines that he could, he used all the herbs. After everything, Krishna's headache was still there. It didn't go away. While this was all happening, sage Narada came to visit Krishna, and sage Narada is a revered sage, and he is a Devarishi, so he can also try many things. He tried, nothing happened, everything was the same, no change. So still it was hurting. So everybody now didn't know what to do. Krishna has a headache, somehow they want to get rid of that headache. Then Krishna himself said, I have a remedy. And then everybody went, we've been running around so much trying to get your headache gone. And if you knew the remedy, why didn't you tell us? Please tell us whatever it is that we will do. And he said, if someone who loves me takes the dust from their feet and puts it on my forehead, then my headache will be gone. So then everybody thought, oh, that's all it is. We've been trying all the medicine. All we need is dust from the feet. So they were all like, okay, we can do that. And he said, there's only one catch that I want you to know. And everybody asked, what is it? And he said, if they put the dust from their feet on my forehead, my headache will be gone for sure. But they will go to hell forever. There will be no way to get out of it. That's it. Permanently, hell only. So now everybody was shocked, right? You have to go to the hell forever. So Rukmani and Satyabhama said, oh, you're our husband. You're in a revered position. How can I take the dust from my feet and put on your forehead? I can take the dust from your feet and put on my forehead. That is my bhakyam, but I can't do the thing back to you. So that is not something that we should do. And then sage Narada was there. And we all know how Narada keeps saying Narayana all the time. And he knows Krishna is nothing but Narayana. And if his favorite Narayana is having a headache, then Narada should be willing to do something. But Narada said, oh, no. I'm trying to learn the Brahmagyanam. I want to become one with the universal consciousness, and I'm a rishi. So I cannot go to hell, and that won't work for me. If I have to be forever in hell, that won't work. So Narada was also not willing to. He didn't say it out loud, but he was also not willing to. So now everybody is looking, who will do this? Who will do this? So then Krishna said, go and talk to the Gopikas. So he sent Narada to the Gopikas. So Narada went to the Gopikas, and they all saw Narada, and immediately everybody did namaskaram to Narada. He is a great sage. And they asked him, where are you coming from? He said, I'm coming from the palace of Krishna. Immediately all the Gopikas said, how is our Krishna? It's been so long since we've seen Krishna. And as you all know, after Krishna left the Gopikas, when he was like 9 years or so to go fight with Kamsa, etc., then he became the king. He never came back. That's it. After 9 years or 10 years, he never saw these Gopikas. So his association was just at the time when he was in Nandagopa's house. So all these Gopikas were like, we haven't seen him in so long. We are longing to see him. How is our Krishna doing? And then Sage Narada said, no, I wish I could tell you that Krishna is doing great, but right now he's suffering with a terrible headache. And I've come in search of a cure for that headache. So now the Gopikas are all sad, and they're like, oh, what can we do? How can we help to cure Krishna's headache? And Narada said, he did give me some plan which will work. So they said, oh, what is it? We'll help in any way possible. And he said, if someone who loves him takes the dust from their feet and puts it on his forehead, then his headache will be gone. And just as Narada completed saying those words, immediately all the Gopikas took the dust from their feet and put it in a container, and they said, take this, go give it to Krishna, let him be rid of his headache quickly. And Sage Narada felt like, oh, these women probably don't understand exactly what will happen. He said, no, there is something you need to know. If you do this, his headache will be gone, but whoever did that will suffer in hell forever. And pat came the reply from all the Gopikas, it doesn't matter. What matters is that Krishna's headache should be cured. Whatever happens to us, it is not our problem. Krishna will take care of us. So please go give this to them. So at that time, Sage Narada realized what that bhakti is, that complete devotion that he doesn't care about the personal suffering, the personal pain, or the consequences, is only completely focused on that divine and wants the good things for that divine all the time. And this is the kind of bhakti we saw with Kannappar. This is the kind of bhakti we see with the Gopikas. That's why if you see, Radhe Krishna is so popular. While their association was only for a short time, the Radha and Gopikas are perennially associated with Krishna because of this true love. So bhakti is the margam through which we can attain that universal consciousness. And for human beings like us, universal consciousness is quite a stretch. So even for us to recognize the oneness with the rest of our people, to the way to become more kind and compassionate, bhakti is a great way to do all of those, so we can live in harmony with the society that's around us. So that's all for today. Thank you.